listening to Second Wind with Joyce Buford, where women who are ready to expand their life adventure discover the tools to stop playing small and tap into the courage required to enjoy their second wind. Welcome.
Welcome to Second Wind with Joyce. That would be me, your hostess of this podcast. You remember, I've shared with you, but if you're a new person on this podcast today, I want to tell you that I started this podcast, Second Wind, because I wanted to encourage you ladies that are listening that have gone through transition. And when you go through transition, it's a wonderful opportunity to find out who you are. It's a wonderful time to increase who you've been and to live a life that's yours. It's all yours. I wanted to inspire you to dream much bigger than we have in the past. So open those doors, open those thoughts, and let your dreams fly. And I wanted to inform you because all of my guests are women who have gone through their own transition. And that's where the wisdom is. Let those forerunners that have gone before you kind of share how they've rebooted their life. And so today is no exception. I have a wonderful guest today. Her name is Sue Horwitz, and she has a wonderful story to tell. So if you're ready, we're going to get started. So thank you very much for being here. And here is Sue. Now, let me tell you about Sue. She was raised on the East Coast by her adventuresome parents, she calls them. And they moved from California to Boulder, Colorado. Boulder was the hub for high-tech startups and she became a marketer. She says, my heart was in technology and helping technical leaders communicate more effectively with their markets. The best place I could do that was in California. So she moved back to California. She's keeping the trail hot here. So she returned there and became an independent publisher representing servicing professional auto tech manufacturers. Eventually, she founded 2 leading publications. Now, during this time, she was married, adopted her husband's 5-year-old son, remodeled a 1928 Spanish bungalow, which sounds fabulous, and started oil painting and figure drawing and becoming a classical Pilates instructor. In 2019, she left LA and returned to Colorado to help support her 91-year-old mother and her 40-year-old antique jewelry business. Now, she's going to share with us the reason she returned to Colorado was, of course, to support her mother, but also she made the transition. And the transition of a 30-year marriage, quit. He quit. The transition came. And so Sue was inspired to become a transition coach and a divorce coach so she could help guide those through the chaos and devastation of a divorce into a new and prosperous life. And I love that. And she helps women go through that transition with emotionally, financially, physically, and spiritually. So you come out on the other side, fulfilled and ready for the new you. So welcome, Sue Horwitz, lady of many treasures. I love this.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, we like treasures here.
It's sort of funny how we do all those things in our earlier lives. And as we can look back now where we are in our life, we can say, oh, well, that helped me. That helped me. That did this for me. It gave me power. It gave me strength. And I can use all those in creating my new life.
That's
right?
That's very true. Very true. That is why they call it wisdom, right?
Wisdom. And it comes in kind of after we've already done some really crazy things and had some really crazy things happen to us.
Yeah.
So why were you drawn to coaching?
Great question. I had for many, many years been in publishing at the point I discovered coaching, and I knew I wanted to make a change. My son was grown and practically through graduate school, and I wanted an encore career, if you will. And I didn't feel prepared to make those kinds of decisions. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And in the process of learning about coaching, I became a coach. And as I was moving towards beginning my own coaching practice and shuttering, at that time, it was a 20-year business. That's when my husband abruptly left and never to be heard from again. So at that point, I was so thankful because I was surrounded by other coaches.
Yes.
But I did put my actual coaching practice that was in existence at that time on hold. I needed to right my ship emotionally and also financially. So I kept the publishing business running for a few years after that. And when I finally was able to shutter the publishing business, I went back into coaching and retrained in the areas of transition and also in divorce.
Well, my question would be, why did you decide to leave publishing? You said you'd already started coaching. Had you kind of felt like you'd done that, been there, done that?
Well, with the publishing, part of it was I'd gone through the heyday of print and into the change to online and events, all of which the publications I was involved in were doing. But it was, you know how you can do something for so long and then it's time to change it up. And
yes.
I wanted to change it up. And at that time, I'd always been a Pilates practitioner, and I had seen so many businesses come and go. And I supported a lot of teachers through these ups and downs. And I had, they always say in coaching, have at least 5 clients before you quit your day job. And I still had financial responsibilities at that point in time.
Right.
So I was doing both, and it was great. I mean, when you're starting something new, you're energized, you're pumped, you're hopeful, and then boom, it's sort of like a left turn, if you will.
Well, although you had started the coaching prior to and was doing it with your other job, I think there is some really gained wisdom that we get when we experience it. Were you always going to coach the divorced woman, or were you just interested in coaching?
Well, I was
found your area of expertise.
Right. So I was originally going to coach, as I said, be a business coach.
Yeah.
But as I started to go through the transition, both of being divorced and then of basically retiring from the other business that I had done for so many years, I was very curious about transitions, because I was like anyone who's gone through them. You experience so many emotions, whether your transition is chosen or not. And so I started reading about transitions, and then I sought out being trained to understand how to coach people through transition.
Right.
And while I was doing that, I actually met a divorce coach, and I thought, well, if you're a coach, you're a coach. Why would you need a divorce coach?
Right.
And that's when I learned that it is a unique transition for many of us. And it's in part because of the legal system and the legal processes that we go through. And I learned over the course of time that what I didn't know came back to bite me in some cases. So I didn't want to see other women go through that. And I was typical of the largest growth area in divorce, women over 50, who are divorcing at a much higher rate. And I wanted to share that experience. It's sometimes healing, and to be of service to other women who can make it a much simpler, less stressful, and less costly transition to experience, and one that gets them set up to be a lot more successful with what they decide to do next.
Right, right. Well, I think it takes walking that path to really create the empathy and understand the pain that somebody goes through, the decisions that we have no idea how to do. We are in our unknown land when we're going through that. And it's just so helpful to have somebody to hold our hand. You may not know my situation, but you've been through it and you survived it.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's one of the most important things for women, especially if it's not their choice, to know is that you will get through this. And if you're able to work with someone and have a support system so that your mindset is geared properly, you will have a fabulous new life experience. And you not only are experiencing something that is very difficult, and you get to start over.
Right.
And that is not many people do get an opportunity to start over.
Yeah. But they don't start over with nothing. They've been building all these skills and resources. They don't even consider them that, because they usually are things they do very well, but they are great resources.
Yes.
And so they don't start at ground zero. They start with much more in their bag than they think.
You're so right. And sometimes I know with so many of my clients, they need to be reminded that they are and have been in their lives confident, and they have certain skills that they brought to their marriage and to their families, and they have those skills that they can bring into this situation as well. And a lot of what I like to remind clients who are just spinning in the crazy time, okay, rely on your strengths to help you through this. And what new strengths can you cultivate?
Right.
So that's where a lot of their growth comes in.
Well, you were already, you had explored quite a bit, even in your married life.
Yes.
I mean, you learned how to paint and garden. No, was one garden. What was it?
I painted. I did garden because in Southern California, it's perfect.
Okay. Figure drawing.
A lot of different things.
And you did Pilates.
And I did the Pilates, and I still do the Pilates. It's a reformer next to me here, my favorite piece of equipment.
Yes. Yeah, I did Pilates when I was living in Santa Fe, because it was more popular there.
Yeah.
I think we only had one Pilates in
studio. Yeah.
Yes. And it had one.
Yeah.
But at least it was here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you didn't choose to go back to those. That's interesting. Do you paint still?
I do still paint. And because I now don't have the kind of open space in my home or things like that, I've been struggling with acrylics and watercolors since I got back to Colorado, but it's a good struggle. It keeps me busy and
we
fresh.
have great scenery there.
We do. If I could see anything other than the snow falling right now, I'd be looking at a gorgeous skyline. But it's all white.
Yes. Well, What was the most for you personally?
Mhm.
Do you remember something that was your biggest challenge as you went through that very difficult time?
Oh my gosh.
There's a lot because a lot hits you, but
Right.
um, there's always something that is just so prevalent that
Right.
we carry.
So there's and it's so interesting because this is something that I use with clients now, and it's part of like a curriculum actually in divorce coach training.
Uh-huh.
Um, at the moment and in those very early days, and I was panicked, devastated. I mean, my emotions were running like at such an all-time high, and there were times I felt like my head was going to blow up, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And this a coach friend of mine said to me, okay, let's break it down. How do you want to feel?
Hmm.
And at that point in time, all I wanted to do was feel calm, safe, and a little bit of joy about anything at that point.
Right. Yeah.
And the minute I made that switch, that shift of, oh, right, I get to choose how I want to feel and go through this. And those three words guided me through every decision I had to make. So when I was interviewing attorneys, if they made me feel panicked or, like I was going to head into the all-time greatest battle or whatever, I knew that that wasn't the right person for me. Um, and so that learning how to make that choice about how you feel has changed pretty much how I make decisions in so many areas of my life. And it's also given me tremendous confidence to trust myself, because if I'm headed in a direction that doesn't feel right and the emotions behind it are, negative, low energy kinds of emotions,
Hmm.
I know I need to shift and make different choices. And
Hmm.
that is really that power of choice is the biggest aha moment I had in the divorce, at a time when you feel like you have no choices.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Getting some control back
mhm,
um,
mhm,
in a very uncomfortable world, you know,
right,
is
right.
it's really important to have that person that can walk with you. Did you have to totally change your friends, or were you able to maintain some of your friends?
I maintained the bulk of my friends,
Mhm.
and those social situations that come up, I had intuitively kind of knew how to go through them, and that's, when I was able to calm myself down and use the skills that I had learned going through coaching for myself.
Yeah.
um, I learned how to create boundaries around people that would like to tell me what they thought, or that felt that they needed to tell me what was going on with my former spouse. And we were in the same kind of business environment. Everyone knew each other.
Right.
And that setting those boundaries, and around myself too, what I would talk about, what I wouldn't talk about. I really didn't share a lot with
Yeah.
people other than my very, very, very closest friends and
Mhm.
my family.
Yeah.
So I was very protective of myself in that way. And
Mhm.
I urge other women to do that too. I mean,
Yeah.
if
I
they're,
think it's really hard for women,
Mhm.
maybe men too, but I think it's really hard because we are such caretakers that women probably need to shed more friends than they do.
Yeah,
And the clearer we can get about who we are, what we like to do, where we want to go, how we want to spend our time, and maybe even do something totally out of the norm to help
yeah,
us make that
yeah,
discovery
yeah,
is awesome. I mean, Um, there was a day that I just couldn't, like, I can go on a trip now, although I like to always go on a trip with a group, but I do the trips I want to do. I don't do the trip that Susie or Betsy or somebody else wants to talk me into going to New York and shopping. Okay, that's not me. Although I love to shop, but I don't want a group when I
Yeah,
shop.
yeah, yeah.
So, but I just think that I really wish every woman can discover her real self and the joy that she can have in living this life. It's just
That's right.
awesome,
It's
right?
it is. I love my life. And, I'm not a divorce advocate, obviously.
No.
I think it would be wonderful for women who are married to be able to communicate with family members about things that they have stuffed or aren't doing that
Hmm.
they long to do as well. So it's it's difficult when you're in a family
Yeah.
to be able to be yourself in some situations. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
which
I
is why
lost
I
my
guess,
voice. My
yeah,
voice just went away. I was
yeah,
like, "Where are you?" And I was a director of a children's museum.
right.
Totally I was great at the museum. Of course, they were children now.
Well, yeah, but the director deals with a lot of other things other than children.
It was a wonderful job for me because it kinda opened me up. I started my primary colors were back in my in my bag now. I could go red, blue, yellow.
Kids
It
will
was
do
wonderful. Yeah.
kids will do that to you, right? It's like, oh, I remember doing those things. I remember being that free.
Yeah, that was a fun, fun, fun job, but, I felt also the big pull that I just had to get out of town, I had to go, I had to leave, I had to find me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's so common. Is there another common thing that you would think with the experience of you working with so many women that you find they have in common?
The money thing.
Oh, definitely.
The money thing is something that we always spend a great deal of time on. And even, I know for myself, I was the primary breadwinner for many years in our marriage. And I had one of the things that prevented me from making a change earlier was my fear of money and being
But
without.
why would that be? Because you're the primary money. Why would that
Well,
be? Tell
well,
me that.
that was in my DNA.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That was a DNA situation. I grew up with parents who were both Depression era,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
children and all of that. So there was a lot of money story in my life.
Mhm.
And I also felt very often during the marriage as the primary breadwinner, if something were to happen to me, what would happen to us, you know?
Oh, yes. That's a
So those
burden.
kinds, and then going from, a double income, even if mine was more than, and assuming a lot of financial responsibilities and things of that sort, that gave me an opportunity to change my attitude about money. It was one of those, and I see this with so many women, and to a person, they all are worried about their financial situation. And so a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
what we work on is developing, um, and I worked on, was developing small habits and new practices to change my feelings about money. Um, it is, and taking money as an area of empowerment, and how I looked at it and how I treated it, and the fact that I, would look at my money daily and see what there was and start developing a habit to pay my bills every week and know where I was, it was so refreshing.
Mhm.
And when that's another area of control that many women don't have at all in their marriages.
Right. Yeah.
I meet many women whose husbands don't tell them where their money is. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a big area of change
Right.
and liberation
Yeah.
for a lot of women in divorce.
Yeah. This is another podcast, I think, but I think it's sometimes very funny to see how second marriages are managed because of the PTSD of the first marriage. And money matters. I
Yeah.
mean, they're very guarded, and I'm almost shocked that a woman would enter a relationship with a man that's that guarded in the money area. I mean, I'm already saying, "Oh, that's not going to work."
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So it's a very delicate subject, not only for women, but it can be for men.
Right.
Just that they want to keep control, and that
Right.
makes it difficult for marriages, successful ones.
Well, and you bring up a really interesting point because it's how you decide to rebuild your life after divorce that will either help you in having a successful second marriage, which the
Mhm.
statistics don't necessarily prove that out,
Right.
or not. And money is a big factor in that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But I think if people just get a divorce and then say, okay, I'm going to move on to the next one, find the next one that fits me, that I like being with, I can laugh with, but they don't do any of their personal work, then they're still carrying the same baggage into
yeah,
the new relationship.
yeah,
So, I chose not to remarry. I did have a relationship, but even at that, I was scared to have the marriage
yeah, yeah,
because I hadn't done my homework, you know?
right. And then it becomes whether you want to do your homework at your pace or someone else's.
Yes, yes.
So,
So, what do you do now for like vacations? Do you take vacations?
oh, hell
Time
yeah.
away.
Hell yes.
Yay.
So I have traveling buddies, and
Good.
I would have to say our wings have been somewhat clipped these last few years,
Oh,
unfortunately.
is something going on out there that we don't have in Texas? I'm sorry. That was a
No,
poor stab at comedy.
we have it here in Colorado too.
Oh.
So for me, I love European travel, and I have a very dear friend, and we are slow travelers. So we'll pick a country, we'll rent a place, we'll take our time, and we'll explore. And both of us have a number of friends that live in the UK and in Italy and have homes in both. So
Oh,
we do that.
cool.
Oh, it's fabulous. Where I feel
Yes.
I am very lucky. And the travel that I've done mostly since the pandemic has been back and forth between Colorado and Washington, D.C., where my son, his
Mhm.
wife, and I have two granddaughters. One is just a month old. So
Oh, have fun.
I'm doing the grandma thing. I'm on the grandma tour.
Hey, hey.
Yeah.
That's a great reason. I found that I haven't really been that, so I had trips booked, like
Yeah.
to Morocco, but that didn't
Hmm.
happen. That didn't happen. And next year it didn't happen. And next year it didn't happen. And it's kind of when I look at the waiting lines in the airports and I do all this and I hear about some of the, I am not really just jumping on the planes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm really it's kinda taken some of its luster away from it.
Yeah. It,
I hope it'll come back because that isn't a fun part, but there's so much beauty here in the United States. My gosh, we can't
Mhm.
go without maybe that's the benefit of some of this pandemic. We at
Exactly.
least see the beauty in our own country for a
Yep.
change.
Yep.
I had a friend that went to all of the national parks, and I thought, well, that's a great idea. Never thought of doing that, you know. But as children, we did go car travel. But
Me too.
that's a great. We do have some gorgeous areas. You live in
It-
gorgeous areas.
I do. I do. And I've traveled a good deal of the West,
Mhm.
pretty extensively between the times I've lived here and been in California and um, camping and taking my son to various camps and places over the years. So, and
Mhm.
as a child growing up, my parents also took us on tons of road trips. We covered all of the Eastern United States
Yes.
in tents.
Yes.
So
Now, did you go to a dude ranch with your son?
no, I've never been to a dude ranch with him. It's so funny. I don't know. I'm trying to think if I've ever ridden a horse with him. I've done plenty of that because my father was into that and I used to
Yeah.
go with him.
Yeah.
But we've done river raft trips and ski trips and all of those fun things. Yeah.
Right. Right. Well, Texans always, we Texans, I don't have a horse. My daughter does, but um, we would go to a dude ranch when the kids were growing up in Wyoming.
Oh, wow.
And so we go be dudes for a
Yeah.
week or two.
It's
It
so
was
funny that
great.
you mentioned that. I had binged on Yellowstone
Oh,
during that
it's
snowy
beautiful.
weekend, and I thought,
Yeah.
I want to do a dude ranch trip. So that is something I actually started looking into, but I'm not taking my son with me.
Oh, no, no. There's a gorgeous one up in, oh, I've not been there. I have other friends that go there, but it's just gorgeous scenery.
Yeah,
On the back of a horse, I mean, it's pretty impressive. More
yeah,
that you can stay on it for an hour, but
yeah. We have to
but
get.
anyway. So you're opening up for, I hope through all of our chatter that you're listening to the new areas that Sue and I both explored. We kept growing in our life. And that's the excitement of having gone through. I would never say that if your marriage had worked, that you wouldn't want to have gone through that. But if it didn't, then you have the total freedom to create and find out who you hadn't been living, the part of you hadn't been living. So it's always kind of interesting where we go after.
Mhm.
Um, uh, I call those defining moments. And did we talk about your defining moment? It really was when your 30-year marriage stopped being 30 years and your
Yeah,
husband
yeah,
decided to go his way. So that's those are the defining moments. It's when we have death in our family, that's another defining moment that has changed more than it actually it was something that totally changed me at the first of the year.
yeah.
But all in the good way. Yeah. You know, we need to reboot who we are at times.
And you bring up a really important aspect of transition in our lives. I mean, there are major transitions, and for most of us, especially if we're boomers, we grew up thinking, well, you get one job, you have one marriage, and the world is not like that any longer. And
No.
there are many transitions that we experience in life now. We live longer, and going from good health to less than good health is a transition. And I think one of the things that I'm also grateful for is that having gone through a late life transition, I'm prepared and more comfortable in the unknowns about life going forward. They don't hold me back. I'm not afraid of them. Uh, and I think that's tremendous freedom. And that's where you want to be after you've gone through something like a divorce or one of those defining moments is you want to feel free.
So what do you think it is about that transition that makes you go forward with more confidence?
I think it's that having had the experience and really being, if you can slow down and be aware of what you've accomplished in those timeframes, even if it was a terrible situation or all of that, it builds your confidence, and you become your own source of inspiration in a way. Like, oh, I can do this.
Right. It's like nothing that comes, they can't throw anything at you that you aren't strong enough to take on, figure it out, and do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Prove it.
Yep. Yep.
Win.
Win.
Let's think about all those positive words.
That's right. That's right.
So what do you have on you're coaching now? Are you doing that full time? That's your primary income?
That's my primary income.
And so how do people find you if they would like to work with you, Sue?
They can find me at my website. It's SueHorwitzCoaching.com. That's SueHorwitz. I only have one O. And there are places where you can connect with me there. There's a ton of resources for people going through divorce. And if you're not going through a divorce and contemplating a change, there's also a download for a change readiness assessment. So you can
that's good.
See how ready you are to make a change, and then some tips on how to get through a transition.
Right. Yeah, those are great things to have. Now, you also have social media, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and Instagram. Yes. So I think, do you find that you're spending more time on probably, and here we spend it on Instagram. I think it's stronger in our area. Back in the day when I now have a support staff that helps me do that. Thank goodness, because my technology is struggling sometimes. And so I have to have that support because it just takes so much pressure off me.
Yeah.
So that's another area that I'm sure you might have some discussion with your clients, is going back into the workforce. They don't always have the skills.
Right.
Computer skills, oh my. And then whatever other skills that they might be needing for their new jobs. So how do you guide them for building that new or preparing for the new?
For the new, that's a really good question. I really encourage my clients to seek out training in these areas, even if it's through networking with other people, because maybe financially they don't have the income, and ask for help. Because you will find that if you join a networking group or a recovery group and you're with other people, somebody knows somebody and they help each other out with those kinds of things. And I remember one of the networking groups that I was in Los Angeles prior to coming back to Colorado, there were women who, that was what they did. They taught other people how to become technically up to speed, and they would work with them on, and it's not terribly expensive. And I mean, if you have some computer skills, you can even find these kinds of classes online. But those kinds of things are readily available. And I think the important thing is not to hibernate and to get out there and seek help from people. So like other meetup groups, or for, Bumble, even to seek out friends and new things to do in that way. That's also very helpful for a lot of people I know.
Right. Yeah, I think it's worth stressing that we're always going to have to learn something. if we're going to go into a different direction. Now, you
Right.
can learn it on the job, but we don't quite get that convenience at a midlife change. And so
Mhm.
sometimes we do have to go to college campuses, career school, or find, there's tons of courses online that you
Yeah.
can go through, but they're all valuable growth steps. Another growth step that one needs to work with is decide whether they want to work with a coach versus a therapist.
Right.
And being in a marriage, I think so many of us go, I know we went to therapists when we were going
Mhm.
through ours, but the coaching world has really um, come on so much stronger because we deal more than rather than going back and finding the issue or what caused the divorce. We work more in how are you going to go forward? Okay, this is where you are. So how are we going? So how do you have that conversation with a woman that comes to you? Do you ever get that question? Is it the best thing to do with you to work with you?
Right. What's interesting is many women choose to work with both a therapist and a divorce coach because what we
Oh,
do is different. I mean, there may be areas that overlap, but what a divorce coach actually is able to do is help you communicate with the other professionals that you need to work with in a divorce environment, to become a successful communicator with your attorney
hmm,
and really identify what it is you want moving forward. So we don't spend a lot of time looking back in terms of what went wrong or all of that. And it's so specialized in terms of the divorce work, whereas um, as I said, therapy tends to look at things in the past. Therapists diagnose issues. Coaches
hmm.
don't diagnose. I would never say you were married to this kind of person or that kind of person. So that makes sense. I'm not qualified to do that.
Right.
Um, and, in terms of reframing so many of the relationships and situations that you're going to need to look at differently, that's really where a coach comes in.
Hmm.
So, how to reframe the relationship with your spouse? That's with your ex-spouse, that can be difficult for some people. And it's especially important to be able to do that if there are children involved.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
even when your children are grown,
Hmm.
um, your spouse was your spouse. And there will be times, there will be conversations and interactions
Right.
about that.
Yeah,
So your kids might need advice on how to deal with the other spouse. So
definitely. And with children, I took a course very recently, conscious uncoupling. That was
wonderful
Catherine.
course.
Yes, yes. Catherine Thomas.
Right. Woodard Thomas. Exactly.
Yes, does that work. And it was so interesting in that mm, even in my own life, I did some growth through taking that course, even
Yeah.
though my divorce is 20 years old. We still carry some of that baggage if we don't work on
Yes.
it. I'm,
Yes.
yeah. So it was a wonderful course, and
It
she
is.
has a
I
book.
took the course as
You
well. I
did?
did. And
I
I'm
didn't see you there.
yeah. Well, the way I was able to take it, it was online, a 5-week kind of thing, and
Yeah,
took it several years ago.
yes, but it's a good course.
It's very good. And I would also recommend her program for people who really want to be remarried and to find the one. She um
Calling in the
Calling
One.
the One, right,
Yeah.
exactly. And she just redid that book. And
Hmm.
if that's something important to you, that's a great place to start, before you work with someone to help you figure out what your profile is going to look like on a dating site and all of those things. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, she came on my podcast and I got to interview her. So that was
Fabulous.
awesome. And
Yeah.
I'd also interviewed another friend of hers that was really, she was talking about calling in the one. So she was
Okay.
calling in one coach. And so we talked, and I think she referred my podcast to Catherine. So anyway, but it was just a great honor to interview her, you know.
I felt privileged to take her class. I agree with you. She's an amazing person.
Yes, yes. But you're not actually doing that in your coaching. Are you kind of incorporating some things in there?
I do, in terms of my coaching, I can coach people before, during, and after divorce. And I do work with people who do want to date and go in that direction. I usually will refer someone out to a specific dating coach, but I like to think that I help them get ready for where it is they, that they know what they're looking for, what their boundaries are, that they're, that decision is coming from a position of strength versus, oh my God, I need another man kind of situation. So I do work with people after divorce in transition. And I work with people, like I mentioned earlier, who are, dealing with empty nests or looking for an encore career, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, that's a big question that some women have to answer for themselves. If they do indeed want to have another mate or not.
Yeah.
But the powerful thing is to realize you don't have to, unless that is your personality. And that's what you really want. Yeah. Total freedom here. It's your life. Go with it. Right.
And I think what's exciting for women who are able to enter into a relationship is that they're what they are looking from the relationship is different. So it's not about having a definition that we get when we marry much younger and we are a wife and then we are a mother and all of that. It's like, this is my partner, whether you're married or not, and it's a life partner. And in the best of cases, that life partner will help you feel at your best and help you explore new areas of growth, and you'll do the same with him. So
it's kind of a different relationship, isn't it?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
One would hope.
Oh yes, or something went very wrong.
Exactly.
What's in the future for you as far as growth? Life?
Oh, that's a good question. So I am working on right now a new program that is all about, I call it an Achievolution, where I'm exploring how to achieve those things that you've wanted to do and they just keep eluding you for one reason or another. So it's about really being able to make decisions and move forward from the heart and create new steps along the way. So that is in my very close future. I think it will probably hit the airwaves in February. And
really close.
Pardon me?
Really close.
Yeah, really close.
Yeah.
And I'm planning some travel here in the United States because we just can't get out of our own way and be sure we can get back with a friend. And we're trying to pick a part of the country that will be hopefully warm, but not Southern California, because I've been there, done that a lot. And possibly spending some time this summer in Europe, if all things permit. So I have some family that's relocating to the UK, and I plan on helping them unpack.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. Yeah.
What about
Um,
you?
well, the only thing I have, well, I'm going to Santa Fe next weekend, but
Oh,
I'm so close, you could do that very easily,
yeah,
an hour and a half and you're there.
yeah.
Um, so, but I'm really do enjoy that part of the country. I like the spiritualness of Santa Fe. I love the music of Santa Fe. Um, and I have good friends there, so I like to go. And I haven't gone as much as I have in the past,
Yeah.
but that's always my freedom spot, if you'll
Good for you. Good
get
for
that.
you.
But other than this trip in May, I'm going to go on this Highlands trip. Did I mention that before? I didn't I?
No.
No. Oh, well, I watched the movie The Outlanders, like everybody else. Great romantic um, series. But it just showed me such beautiful country.
Mhm.
And so I don't know, I kind of got into the kilts and all that. And I thought, well, and so I was on the internet and I saw this company and I called them up and I just said, I've never traveled with anybody like this, but I think I'll go. And it really sounds like it's going to be a fun trip. It's all new, but
Good for
I
you.
only go with the group because I'm not really a very brave traveler. You will never see me going by myself, but
Okay.
I do want to go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, that sounds wonderful. It's a
yeah,
beautiful place. So,
yeah.
and it's so funny to hear you talk about the Outlander. It's one of my mom's favorites.
Oh, good
And
woman. I need to meet her.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and then there are Scottish agate jewels that are absolutely amazing.
Oh,
So look for those while you're there.
yes. But you went there to help your mother in her jewelry business. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah.
But tell us just a little bit about your mother.
Oh my gosh. Well, she's a brilliant lady
Mhm.
and very feisty, and she is an adventurer. So she's 91, and in the early 70s, she had an opportunity to study in London
Uh-huh.
for her master's. And she left my father with the three kids and went, and
Oh, good for
which was
her.
pretty unusual for those
Yes,
times. And I've always admired her for that.
right.
And she had developed a passion for Georgian jewelry, and a lot of it is memorial, very sentimental. And I, I have learned so much about life and things and places through her experience with the jewelry.
Mm.
And it's really fun. It really is fun to spend time with her. And it was so funny, before we got on the call, she had received a letter from someone who was referencing a piece of jewelry that was hers in a book that was published 20 years ago, and wondered if she could remember anything about this piece of jewelry, because she was trying to this woman was trying to document more. And
Oh.
we pulled the book because mom actually had it, and there's
Oh,
this
really?
amazing piece of jewelry. And I said, do you remember anything about it? And she said, no, but I'd love to go back and go buy some more, so
Once a jewelry lover, always.
always, you can
I
never have
love
enough.
jewelry. Love
Yeah,
it, love it.
exactly.
Yes. Well, Sue, this has been such a treat. Thank you
For me
for
too.
being on
Thank you.
Second Wind. Yes.
Thank
And
you for
maybe your
having me.
travels will bring you to Texas.
You never know.
Well, you might want to wait until
Possibly.
COVID settles down.
I think so. I
Yes,
think
yes,
so.
yes.
But I can always meet you in Santa Fe. So
Oh, yes, for
it's not very
true.
far.
No, it's closer to you than it is to me, isn't it?
That's right.
Colorado's just down the road.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's a
for
straight
sure.
shot.
It
So
is. It is. You could drive.
I certainly would.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, thank you for sharing your learning about transitions and being part of the change in so many women's lives.
And
That's awesome.
thank you for providing a platform for people to learn about what their options are. I really appreciate that. And I'm
Yeah.
sure your audience does as well.
Well, I always finish with a couple of questions. So,
Okay.
as our finishing touch, the question that I like to ask is, what is the most important action needed to face the fear of any transition?
The most important action you can take is to accept that it's happening.
Ah, yeah,
Acceptance is key to moving forward.
yeah. hmm And it's not always easy.
No. Mm-mm.
Yes, good answer. So, what is the what is the best part? No, what is success for you?
Being happy and being happy.
Mm, mhm,
That's success. Feeling good about what I'm doing in my life.
Yeah. Wise woman you are, Sue. So, thank you for being here. It's been a joy to spend this hour with you.
Thank
And
you.
I look forward to the good fortune and the help that you'll be giving all these listeners. I want them once again, tell them how they can get to you, Sue.
They can visit my website at suehorwitzcoaching.com
Mhm.
and they can schedule time with me. They can download various pieces of information and
Yeah.
I'll be in touch.
So they can sign up for a exploratory conference or whatever you call yours.
Yes, they can sign up for Let's Talk About Your Future call.
I like that. Okay. So
Mhm.
thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Now, my dear listeners, I always like to encourage you to share the message. You've found your way here, but it's so important that you help that woman out there that is going through the pain, going through the hurt, trying to find and make sense out of her life today. You may have the secret that she needs to totally make this transition far less painful than it is. There's so many people that have gone through divorce, they've rebuilt, they're living the life that Sue has shared with us today, which is an awesome, fulfilled, rewarding life. You have that opportunity. So I hope you will send this to a friend, that you'll take the time if you are possibly in the position of looking for a coach to help you make this transition. I thank you very much for being here. And I hope that you will be here next week as we have another guest, as wonderful, almost as Sue, but she is going to offer you lots of wise wisdom. So thank you for being here. Have a great week.
Joyce Buford returns next week at the same time for another edition of Second Wind. Through the Joyce Buford Empowerment System, women are receiving the support they need through their transitions and are able to reclaim their true purpose with confidence. They receive the tools they need to map out new lives. You can find out more about her coaching services at joycebufordempowers.com.